This is Vivian Vong reporting live in Fatuhiva.
Totally worth it to sail with Ultima and Quetzal. You need to build your confidence sailing. Come sailing with these guys.
In our last 2 episodes, we sat down with John Kretschmer to talk all things sailing. In this episode, I sit down with his partners, Vivian and Nathan, aboard their Compass 47 Ultima.
Hi, I'm Vivian.
I'm Nathan.
We are on our boat, Ultima, and we run a business called Ocean Passages, and we're currently in French Polynesia in the Marquesas.
We just sailed up here from Tahiti. We're kind of getting ready to wind down our season and haul the boat out.
Yeah, and we're right next door to Quetzal, where Gretchen just completed a trip with John, and we completed our 41st trip.
That's awesome.
41st training passage.
Can you tell me about how you got started sailing?
Well, we are from New Mexico, landlocked, and my friend Megan and her partner Mike asked me if I wanted to move to Florida, buy a boat, and learn how to sail. I was like, that sounds like a reasonable next step. And at the same time, our friends Mike and Megan asked Nathan, and
I was kind of looking for the next adventure, and yeah, we both agreed to move to Florida and buy a sailboat with Mike and Megan and figure out how to sail. And
So no sailing experience?
No sailing experience. I had been on a Hobie Cat in San Diego a couple times as a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we moved to Florida and spent a few months looking at boats, and then we settled on an Irwin 37, which was big enough to accommodate
the best part,
all
man.
4 of us. What's the best part?
2 weeks later we got married.
So we got married.
Yeah,
So we were friends and roommates at the time, and
when we realized we were both had agreed to move to Florida with Mike and Megan, we kind of said, should we do this together? And we had just been friends for about 3 years, never romantically involved, and then 2 weeks later we went to Vegas and got married, and we spent.
And then we got romantic.
Exactly.
And that was 11 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah. What inspired you to then fast forward to get into this life of, starting a business, focusing on blue water training passages?
I guess for me it was kind of reading John Kretschmer's book, Flirting with Mermaids, and realizing that being a delivery skipper was a job and that you could get paid to just move people's boats around. Mm-hmm. And when I read that, I was like, well, that sounds cool, and that sounds like something I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of, as soon as we sort of made the jump to sailing, I was kind of like, why not work in the sailing world? And I was kind of always pushing us, let's move down to Fort Lauderdale where there's jobs on boats. And after we sold that boat, that's what me and Vivian did, and we moved down to Lauderdale, not really knowing what we were going to do, but knowing that there was a whole industry there, and that we could potentially make some money on boats. I basically wanted to be a delivery skipper, but didn't have my captain's license yet, and so we needed sea miles and sea time.
Experience, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the most readily available thing was to just work on super yachts and get experience doing that, which would count for sea miles and time on boats and experience. And it was like the quickest way to a paycheck, so we kind of started doing that.
I got my first job as a stewardess and became a mate, and then after a couple trips doing interior work and exterior work, it was just a lot. It was actually 2 years of it, not a couple trips, but 2 years of doing all that. I figured, people really like chefs on super yachts, and I had a little bit of skills cooking, and so I was like, well, let's just go that way.
Yeah.
And so, while Nathan was getting his sea miles, I was just working and being sugar mama.
Well, I would imagine, Nathan, for you being able to bounce around onto a lot of different boats, that's getting reps.
It really was, and I mean, it was really fantastic experience, and we eventually kind of worked our way through the super yacht world and knew we didn't really like it, ended up working for a charter company in the Grenadines, and that was cool because it was kind of one of our first jobs where we worked together. The same company. We got an apartment in Beckway, and we were working in sailing.
So tell me about, what is the allure? I mean, you need to work, you need to have a job, but what is it about taking people to sea? Like, why that?
It's people who come aboard with us have this dream of sailing. They love being on the water. They really love being in nature. They want to learn, and it's really rewarding for us to kind of see that. And it's really cool to meet people from all different walks of life, and they come here and they get really uncomfortable. They get seasick. They get their mind blown away by how beautiful it is, and it's a really cool way to spend your time. It's not something where we're just punching in. We're actually helping people realize their dreams.
And it's something that we kind of maybe thought, when we first heard about like training passages and knew that John Kretschmer was doing it, it was like maybe one day we'll do that, like far down the road after we kind of do a whole bunch of other sailing or get a bunch of other experience. And then, after meeting him, it kind of just fell into our lap.
I sat down with Nathan and Vivian and got to hear a little bit about their story, and I was very intrigued to hear more about how 5 or so years ago, what did you see in them to bring them into your world?
I have to honestly give credit fully to Taji, because she and Vivian got to know each other, and she just was completely convinced Vivian was just an amazing person, and he was convinced that we had our trips fill up fast. People are always disappointed, another venue. Anyway, so we made the decision. But it's interesting because 5 years ago I was probably still pretty reluctant, and now 5 years later, Nathan and Vivian have become our dearest friends in the world, as well as sort of business partners. I mean, I don't think either one of us see it in a very businessy way, which is probably a beautiful thing. But I mean, they're people that the more you know, the more you like and respect. And they're champions. They've been really helpful to me in tough situations. I've been helpful to them. I think it feels good to both of us to be able to help each other. It's nice to be in faraway places and have a boat that's, got your chums aboard and your people who'll come help you do anything. And it's added a whole new chapter to this that I didn't anticipate, didn't even know I wanted. And now looking back at it, I'm so happy that we did it.
Yeah.
They remind me a lot of myself. So I never took a sailing class. I never felt like I had to kind of add qualifications. I just leaped into the water and started swimming, and swam uphill and upwind, and kind of learned on the fly, and had a lot of room to make mistakes. I think for Nathan and Vivian, they have logged 40,000 miles in Ultima now doing training passages. They've had a tougher go than I did because I was able to make all these mistakes in private. They've, when they make a mistake, it's kind of in public. So they really had to work hard to become, not only really confident of sailing Ultima on their own, but also sharing what they know and having people aboard. So, it's just incredible to me how well they've done that. So,
well, Taji just knew that John was going to be sailing around the world with his big world trip, and she was like, we have people who want to sail in the Atlantic and in the Caribbean, and we should find people who can fill those spots, offer the same kind of business as John, because he's only one guy.
Yeah.
And we joke often that it takes two of us to do his job, but they just ended up choosing us, and we were like, really? Do you know who we are? Like, a bunch of goobers. And we just put all of our heart and souls into this. Yeah. We started a travel business during the pandemic.
I was going to ask you if you faced any challenges.
Oh, yeah.
When you started
our first trip. We had one client, and we were going to go to the Bahamas, and 2 days before our trip, we the Bahamas shut their borders down, and that was March 2020.
Yeah.
But it all worked out because even though we had just spent about 9 months refitting Ultima in Maryland, sailed down to Florida, and it's still a new to us boat. And because we had to delay our first couple of trips and the whole quarantine thing, it gave us the time to have Ultima as our home, as our
really get settled, really
get
get
settled,
to know the
get to
boat.
know her.
Keep improving things, keep upgrading everything,
Yeah.
and getting the boat really ready for training passages.
Talk to me about how you structure your training passages and what people could expect to learn when they come sail with you on Ultima.
So we have about 4 people come aboard with us. We get to know about them a little bit through email at first, and we take anyone with any type of experience, as long as you have the desire to be out here, learn. Even if you just like being on a passage, we provide the space and the boat and the environment for learning as much or as little as you want. Some people really just want to test out to see if they get seasick, or if they can handle,
Night watch.
Or
If they
just
even like doing this.
That's what it was for me. My first training passage, I'd sailed a ton on lakes.
right.
And even in the Chesapeake Bay with my dad cruising, but I'd never been offshore. And so I just didn't know
Yeah.
if I was going to like it.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's a completely different animal.
is,
I mean,
yeah.
just getting out in the ocean swell, and I mean, it's a lot different than sailing on lakes or protected waters. And so for some people, I think it's just kind of that it's the experience based. I mean, other people come along wanting to learn anything, all sorts of stuff from celestial navigation, piloting. Some people want to learn cooking on boats and more kind of boat maintenance type of stuff, and we try and kind of tailor everything to whatever people want to learn. And
Do people have to come in couples, or can
No.
people, you've got,
Yeah.
your boat can accommodate?
we accommodate 4 very easily. We've even done 5, but
But you've got single, you've got these
Yeah.
pilot berths.
couples or singles. Yeah, we just kind of try and give the full experience of what a long ocean passage can be like. We also generally run some trips that are more cruising trips, where we're doing a lot more anchoring and mooring and kind of coastal navigation, and just kind of more of a cruising atmosphere than just a straight passage making.
Yeah, offshore.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way for anyone who is interested in cruising or sailing long term to see what kind of mishaps we could get into. Do things break? Yes, they do. So let's go fix this. We are weather routing, we're passage planning, and we're also showing people what it's like on a rainy day at anchor, or if there's a beautiful reef to snorkel, we're gonna explore it.
Well, there are quite a few people who are out doing training passages. So do you have a point of view or perspective of what sets you apart?
Part of what sets us apart is just the fact that we are a couple and that we can give perspectives kind of from 2 different angles, I think we can be potentially maybe a little, especially Vivian can be a bit more nurturing than just a man would running a trip. We try and provide good, healthy meals for people and just try and take care of everybody and make sure everybody's comfortable and can kind of be at their best learning in what can be a very difficult and uncomfortable environment.
We like to show people how we do things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way to do things. We're not
Or
like,
even the best
this
way.
is, this is, you have to do this, 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 and that's the only way. We're not like that at all. We like to really just show people how we do things and then let them see for themselves if that's something that they can put into their own sailing regime or checklists of things to do and see if it works for them.
And I think, at the same time, we also are learning too. I think pretty much everybody that comes sailing with us has been successful in some aspect of their life, and there's a lot we can learn from them too. And so we try and kind of create this environment of everybody being able to share, and everybody's opinions and experience matters.
Yeah, for example, when we were crossing back from Europe on our Atlantic crossing, it was right around the time Kristen Neufschafer just won the GGR.
Yeah.
And our weather router, Trevor Richards, was like, she won because she had twin head sails on her boat. And I also did that in my downwind passages, and you guys should try it too. And we were like, we've never done that, but we have 2 head sails. And so we had an engineer on the boat, retired Canadian 3-star general, male nurse. So we all just sat down, put our heads together, and we're like, how are we going to rig up this twin head sail? And working together like that, not having ever done that ourselves, and with the brains of the people that come with us, we made it work, and we sailed for 12 days straight with the twin head sails.
That's amazing.
It was great.
That's amazing. What advice do you have for those dreaming of becoming cruisers?
I think the biggest piece of advice is that you can do it, and that time's wasting. Get out here and do it if you want to do it, because none of us are getting any younger, and you never know what could come along that makes it impossible to do. And if you can do it now, get out here and do it if it's something you want to do. Come for a sail with us, or if you're ready to get into it by yourself. Boat-wise, there's millions of boats out there. You don't need the latest, greatest, newest boat. You can refit a boat pretty quickly, pretty affordably, and you can get out here and do it. And there's people like us that are willing to help you, whether you come sailing with us or not. There's all kinds of advice you can get. There's all kinds of opinions. That's maybe one of the problems with getting into sailing is, you ask 3 different people how you do something, and you'll get 3 completely different answers. But you can always just go with the one that makes the most sense to you.
It's all about mindset. If you can be uncomfortable and still hold on to your dream, then you're going to be able to get through whatever uncomfortableness that you have. And I think for me, how I really learned was I got on as many different boats as I could. I sailed with as many different captains as I could, and there were good ones, there were bad ones, there were great ones, there were awful ones. And having all of that experience really helped me figure out what kind of person I wanted to be on a boat. Having that experience is really beneficial, because if you just buy that one boat and go for it and not have any other experience, then you might become a little bit closed-minded. The only experiences you'll have is in your own little bubble. But expand your mind, sail with many different people, be a little uncomfortable, and it'll benefit you in the end.
Just to add one more thing is that cruising and sailing can really be a lot of different things, and it can be exactly what you make it. We met a couple in Spain that had sailed down from the Netherlands along the Iberian coast and into the Med, and they were sailing with 2 little dogs, and they had never done a passage longer than 8 hours. It was just little day hops from marina to marina. And if you never want to sail at night, that kind of thing is possible. If you want to get out in the ocean and make big passages, that's what it can look like too. But cruising can look like a lot of different things, and it can just be kind of what you make of it.
I'm curious, what's been the most rewarding part of doing this business together?
It's been fantastic. I like doing everything with her, and this is something I don't know if I could have started this business alone. I love having her here, and I don't think I'd be here without her at all.
Yeah, I think it's really strengthened our relationship. Talk about ride or die. I can't say I can trust a lot of people in 60-knot winds in the middle of, nowhere with my life. And so I think for us, it's definitely strengthened our trust in each other, our communication, and working with your partner and then living with your partner and then spending your free time with your partner, you really figure out what needs to be said, what doesn't need to be said, what fights you want to spend time, and it's just like we have such little time. Like, we don't want to sit here arguing today because we got a mountain to climb. We got a reef to swim. Sometimes we just be pissed off swimming and be like, that was awesome. And he's like, weren't you mad at me? And I was like, no, forgot about that.
Tell Vivian sometimes, like, when things are really hard and we're both kind of like, do we want to keep doing this? This is really hard. Sometimes I'll just look at her and say, yeah, but we're really good at this. And, I think so far we have been. There's always feels like a little bit of luck, but it's also been a lot of hard work and a lot of effort that we both put in. And I think it's just, in the end, it's worth it because we're out here doing this amazing thing that most people don't get to do.
Where can people find you?
Our website is sailoceanpassages.com. We have our schedule up. We're on johnkretschmersailing.com. We're on Instagram as Ocean Passages, one word. You can email us directly, info@sailoceanpassages.com. And we may be offshore, but we will get back to you as soon as we are on land or shoreside.
I spent a little more time talking with John about what the year ahead looks like for Quetzal and Ultima.
So a lot of trips like the one we just did, sailing together. They're working a little harder than we are. They have a few more trips once we get to places, but we're gonna go westward now for the next few years. Next season is back. One more run through French Poly and American Samoa. Well, actually, Cook Islands to American Samoa, and then Tonga, Fiji, and then a big challenging passage down to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then we'll be, the same time next year we'll be getting ready to haul out in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a super exciting year. So we'll have really done the South Pacific proud. A lot of people whiz through in a season. We decided to take an extra year here, and we'll really know French Polynesia well, both of us. And one thing that's cool about Nathan and Vivian is that they really embrace the culture, and Vivian loves to learn about the food, and so they sort of drag me into that more than I might on my own. It's really, when Taji's not here, it's great to have them because she knows more about French Polynesia than I do for sure.
Yeah.
And it's really cool for me that way.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with
you,
me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we look forward to sailing with you at some point.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll have a hoot.
Yeah.
We would. I think we would.
Absolutely.
I just imagine that just like laughing so much my cheeks hurt. And
There's a lot of that with Tim.
lots of good eating.
I like to laugh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Really. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah, it's
guys.
fun.